call this meeting back to order. And we'll go down to item 2, which will be the approval of the agenda. 2.1, changes to agenda and approval of the agenda. And we do have one change on the consent agenda, added item 8.24, motor vehicle lease for disaster transportation services between the School Board of Okaloosa County and Belvedere Commons of Fort Walton Beach. And we'll go down to section 3, which will be recognitions. 3.1, recognition of Riverside Elementary School academic team. 2021 nationwide 5th, 6th grade Fall American Answers Champions, and this will be presented by our superintendent. And section 4 is visitors. 4.1, proclamation in support of the Okaloosa County Commission on the Status of Women, presented by the Honorable Linda Vanchek, and I'll turn that over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board members, Mr. Superintendent, it is my honor today to introduce Ms. Mitzi Henley to you. Ms. Henley is a lifelong Okaloosa County resident and product of our wonderful school district. And she is also a local businesswoman and is the chair of the Okaloosa County Commission on the Status of Women. And in that capacity, in the last over year, she's been working with her fellow commissioners and others to look at the status of human trafficking in relations to our county, the concerns of that, and mainly to start getting information out on how we can recognize the symptoms, so to speak, of those situations. So in November, the Women's Commission held a symposium that I actually attended, and I believe Dr. Kelly was also there, where we had a lot of stakeholders who, particularly from the Florida Alliance to End Human Trafficking there, along with our state's attorney, and we talked about several things. And from that, Okaloosa County Commissioner Carolyn Ketchel went back and had the commission do a proclamation in support of the efforts for awareness for the Women's Commission. So after attending that and speaking with Ms. Henley, who, by the way, is a lifelong friend of mine, I will say, and proud to say that, we talked about the concern of young children in this situation, and she asked me what we could do on the side of the school district. And at that time, I committed to her that I would bring back to the board and our district some information, and also present a proclamation, which Mr. McGinnis and Mr. Chambers have helped me format, that is on our agenda, in support of what these women and others are doing against this very horrible situation that seems to be unfortunately increasing with our county. So Ms. Henley, it's a pleasure to have you this morning to give us this information so that we can move forward to support you. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Chairman Bryant, Vice Chairman Kelly, it's all of you, it's an honor to be here this morning. Human trafficking, the 3rd largest industry in the world. Let that sink in. The 3rd largest industry in the world. It's heartbreaking to me. And I know that the state of Florida is number 3 in the nation. So that got my attention. And even though I have just stepped out of the chairmanship for the commission, they did draft a special committee so we can continue our work, and I am chairing that. So it's an honor to be with you here today. A couple of things that stand out to me in us making people more aware is at our summit, State Attorney Ginger Bowden-Madden spoke to us, and I brought just, even though she spoke for like 35 minutes and a lot on this topic, I wanted you to hear maybe just about a 5-minute snippet. So in her voice and what she talks about, that you could realize the severity of what's happening. Because even though the problem is the largest in South Florida, per capita, our Northwest Florida is number 1. And that is because we have so much happening in Escambia and so much happening in Bay, and we have I-10 going this way, and we're sandwiched in the middle. So we value our youth in Okaloosa County. We always have. And it's important to me that we teach them to value themselves. And what we see happening with social media and the manipulation of young minds, this industry is trying to take advantage of that. And so us trying to make awareness for our students, for our teachers, that this is real and they need to be proactive about it, is where we're seeking, help. Just so I'll let you know, we did challenge everyone there to take the human trafficking training that's online. It was an hour. I did it, got my certificate. And it was eye-opening, because I think a lot of problems could stem from these type of issues that we wind up seeing in drugs and other things with our kids, but underlying maybe something more drastic did happen. And so that's why it's just real important that others take this. The students can take this. It's really easy. The state has provided it online. And then we'd also, we're working with some other groups, and we want to get more stickers with scanned bars for help and that type of thing. So if we could just take a minute and listen to our state attorney. And then we also have Lacey Pate on our committee that will speak for just a couple of minutes and follow up with Trish Graham.
Once the schools closed down and the children were sent home, isolated from all of their friends, they had no human contact, they couldn't interact, they couldn't hang out. They spent their days on their electronic devices. They spent their days on social media apps, on gaming systems, just doing whatever they do on the internet. And these traffickers, they're master manipulators. They know exactly how to search for those children. In 90% of victims under the age of 18 met their traffickers online. Today, it's 95+% of victims under the age of 18 who are meeting on social media. Now, let me tell you kind of how this might happen. This is just one method. There's all kinds of methods, but you can see this. So your trafficker, she sends out a mass mail to a group of students in a school, okay? Let's say Choctaw High School. They send out a mass, they get on Facebook, they know where these kids go to school, and they pick a mass group, send a mass friend request or follow out. So, kids at home playing around, he gets a friend request, pulls it up, looks at the picture. Oh, he's kind of a cool guy. He's got some funny posts. You start going through, he posts funny stuff, and he's kind of cute. And you look and see, oh, wow, well, Mary's one of his friends, and Bob's one of his friends, and Terry's one of his friends, so he must be okay. I'm going to friend him too. And now you imagine how many children in this mass follow or whatever, mass friend request, are responding and accepting the friendship from this individual. Once he's got you, he'll make random, I'm saying you understand traffickers are as likely to be women. Women are very heavily used in the recruitment process of other women especially. But so there'll be random comments posted, little things that you'll get. And after a while, you'll take it from that monitored medium to a less monitored. Maybe you'll go to that personal message thing where you'll start then personal messaging each other. And your conversations over some period of time start to become just a little more friendly. Now, all along as this recruiting and grooming process is going on, he's watching to see what you're posting on Facebook, to see what that child's. Kids post everything. They post everything. You know where they're going, you know where they hang out, you know who they're with, you know what they ate. I mean, they post everything, but you know what else they post too? Every time they get in a fight with their mom and dad, they feel bullied at school, they're depressed, they're having a fight with their friend, boyfriend just broke up, they post everything. And then what's the master manipulator looking for? He's looking for vulnerable targets. He's looking for those vulnerabilities. And the more friendly the conversation becomes, the more personal the conversation becomes. And the next thing you know, you sound like a pretty nice girl. You sound like the kind of girl that I think I would really enjoy knowing. Now, I feel like we could be close. And this little fantasy romance initiates between this individual. And the more friendly and the more intimate that they become in their conversations, boy, I bet you look great in a bathing suit. Would you just take a picture and let me just see how you look in a bathing suit? Okay. And you know what happens next. You know where we get with this. And then you've got what's called sextortion, because he's got the pictures. He might have even talked you into doing a little webcam stuff or video. Now he's got you, because guess what? You have all those mutual friends. And if you don't continue to give them what they want, they will post for all your mutual friends. Maybe for your parents and your neighbors. Maybe you play soccer, or you're in a club at school. And one of the rules is that if it's found that you are sexting or posting inappropriate photos, that you won't be able to continue. This is what they call sextortion. And they take those photos then to get more from you. They take them to sell them. They do that for their own benefit, not for yours, of course. You're now trapped in this cycle. So hey, I'm gonna have an Uber pick you up after school today.
As you can see, this can go on and on, but I wanted you to get the gist of the magnitude of how this reaches in to every other part of the value of our children. So Lacey will address you briefly, and we'll wait to get your response.
Superintendent Chambers, Chairman Bryant, and members of the Okaloosa County School Board, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to speak in support of the proposed proclamation to raise awareness about human trafficking. My name is Lacey Pate, and I am the Vice President-elect for Community Affairs for the Junior League of the Emerald Coast. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the Junior League, our organization is embedded in the community in several ways, including in Okaloosa County Public Schools. Two of our most far-reaching community programs were developed in collaboration with guidance counselors in over 30 elementary schools in Okaloosa and Walton counties. The annual fall clothing, child clothing project, and the year-round child clothing closets provide brand new, clean, well-fitting clothing to elementary school children in need. These programs serve the most vulnerable students in our community, including those facing housing instability, homelessness, and foster care placement. The history of our child clothing programs dates back several decades, so it has been a long-standing priority for the Junior League of the Emerald Coast to address kids' acute needs while also supporting their well-being, dignity, positive self-esteem. We're also embedded in the Okaloosa County Commission on the Status of Women, and as you heard, we have representation there. In fact, as Mitzi mentioned, our Junior League representative on the commission, Erin Landman, recently began her term as chair. So given these connections and our shared mission to advance the role of women in our community, it was very natural for our two organizations to collaborate on an area of mutual interest. And this is the one that keeps us up at night. Human trafficking, the scourge of human trafficking here locally. It's hard to imagine that it exists, that it's occurring in our community, but as you heard from those comments, you can see how insidiously these recruiters can get into our children's lives. The issue is a top priority for the Association of Junior Leagues International, and our local chapter has been actively involved in a worldwide public awareness campaign to fight human trafficking. Thanks to the steady leadership and persistence of Mitzi Henley, who, as you heard, she continues to lead these efforts for the Commission on the Status of Women, we're building some strong momentum to fight human trafficking locally. You heard about the Women's Lead Summit, which the Commission hosted in the fall, featuring the chair of the Okaloosa County Board of Commissioners, Carolyn Ketchel, and also the Honorable Ginger Bowden Matting, who focused on the ground truth of human trafficking and how it works. And that was just such a good summation of how these recruiters go out and work their targets. The summit was a unique opportunity for women to come together on this important issue. We talked about some other things, but it really was focused on human trafficking. And as part of the summit, we presented the Related Human Trafficking Proclamation, which Linda mentioned, that the Okaloosa County Board of Commissioners unanimously approved on November 16th. And the copy of it is there if you'd like to take a look. The most poignant moment from the summit came just as I was walking out of the event. A woman approached me and introduced herself as a human trafficking survivor, a local woman who just wanted to say thank you for raising awareness about the fact that it does occur locally, and it occurs to people that you might not suspect. The thing about it is it's hidden in plain sight. So the signs of victimization, they might not be apparent at all. And the reality is that there are industries that are commonly targeted by human traffickers, and they're located throughout the state, obviously, but also here in Okaloosa County. Interstate 10, as you know, is used as a corridor for human trafficking, and all you have to do is do a quick Google search and you'll see some pretty awful stories of some human trafficking incidents that occur locally. As noted in the proposed proclamation, there are very hard-hitting statistics on human trafficking, and this is the one that really hit me the hardest, that the average age that a trafficked victim is first used for commercial sex is 12 to 14 years of age. Captors you heard all about this. They use a methodical process to target the most vulnerable members of our community, those without family support, runaway minors, homeless youth in foster care, those aging out of the foster system, those struggling with addiction or financial hardship. They're looking for the vulnerabilities, and they know exactly where to find them. They're sophisticated and they're aggressive. They recruit, manipulate, intimidate, and abuse victims, and this trauma and fear is what keeps folks from seeking help, especially minors who are, inherently taught to trust adults. So they use that as a way to keep them from reaching out for help. So it's incumbent on the community members to spot what might be, some of these signs. Since human trafficking affects women and girls disproportionately, you can see why this is such a big priority for women's organizations. We really want to educate and empower the community to detect the warning signs, know how to report it, and be able to offer a lifeline to trafficking victims. The proclamation you're considering puts human traffickers on notice that Okaloosa County is paying attention, and it draws on recommendations of subject matter experts, including the Florida Alliance to End Human Trafficking. That organization was mentioned a couple times. It is a statewide entity that was formed to coordinate efforts to address human trafficking throughout the state of Florida. And they've created, as Mitzi was mentioning, some great training videos. It's about an hour of time. It's not a lot of time. It's a very low investment that anyone can do and be able to understand, certain signs that you might be seeing and be able to ask the right questions. And so the proclamation also acknowledges the heartbreaking reality that human traffickers actively are recruiting children who fall within the age range of students who attend Okaloosa district schools. So on behalf of the Junior League of the Emerald Coast, I respectfully request your support for the proclamation before you today, and really appreciate the fact that you're looking at this issue, and really appreciate your time. So thank you.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for hearing us today. My name is Tricia Graham. I'm here on behalf of the Okaloosa, Florida Association of Women Lawyers, OFAL. I've been able to collaborate with the commission on this proclamation and the Women's Lead Summit. Excuse me. As you know, this really is just about awareness. I've had the opportunity as an attorney as both a prosecutor and work on the defense side as well in juvenile delinquency and juvenile dependency. I've seen it firsthand, and it's not obvious, but educating the adults as well as the children is critical. And when you see it, it's not something that someone's kidnapping somebody and taking them across state lines. They're here, and they're functioning in the schools, and they go about their daily business, but it's about getting that manipulation, and it continues. And so educating kids at least to have that conversation, that communication, that awareness, where they can see that something's up, something's wrong, and when they're isolated or when they don't have that support from family for whatever reason, someone else is going to come in and pull them in. And things start with possibly drugs and different things. I've had cases where it's happened, but no one is aware. They just charge them with a crime, but they're actually victims until you dig deeper. Who's bailing them out? You know, things like that, you start to see it. So we're here today that we just want to create that awareness in any way that is appropriate for the school, and we thank you so much for allowing us this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all so much for coming today. We appreciate the information. And fellow board members, you do have a copy of the proclamation, and we will vote on that come Monday night. Thank you so much. Appreciate it so very much.
And I would just like to say thank you to Ms. Vanchek for bringing this up, and to the people who presented today. We really appreciate you doing this. And my only comment would be to parents out there with children who have cell phones, any type of computer, anything. Monitor your child's phones, their computers. I mean, I know we want to give them some latitude when it's their phone, but you know, as parents, we're responsible for that. So take a look and see what they're doing. Don't be afraid to ask them, you know, how everything is going in their lives. It could make a difference there. Board members, any other comments?
I would just say I did take the online training, and it was very valuable. So I would just recommend it to anyone who's even minutely curious about this topic. It's very valuable. So thank you for providing that to us.
And same thing, appreciate the awareness. I mean, that's a huge piece of this, and I'm very grateful that you're doing that. Thank you.
And I want to add to monitor often, because I mean, I know of a situation where parents did go in and put all the restrictions in it, but children are smart and programs are smart, and the parent didn't realize that a month or two later, the child was seeing some inappropriate activities, even though she had several restrictions on there. So parents monitor daily, weekly, monitor often.
Right. And on Monday night, we'll be voting for this. So, all right, thank you.
Mr. Bryant, but before we move on,
Yes.
I too want to say thank you very much. Love the fact that we're talking about awareness and getting this out even more. An eye-popping thing for me is reading ages 12 to 14.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that strikes everyone's heart and makes it even more real. And understanding the I-10 corridor makes it more real. There are some things that we already do in the school district as it pertains to this, but I think something this important is where we can even investigate and say, hey, how might we do even more?
Mm-hmm.
So again, just thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. So we will move now to Section 5, Administrative Personnel Appointments. And 5.1 will be the appointment of Assistant Principal 1, 10-month to Fort Walton Beach High School, as recommended by the Superintendent for approval. 5.2, appointment of Specialist NCLB Curriculum and Instruction, as recommended by the Superintendent for approval. And Mr. Chambers, I just have one question regarding this position. How will this be funded?
So this will be funded not with school district operating funds, but this will be one of our grants that will fund this position.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And item 6 will be public comment. 6.1, members of the public desiring to address the school board, Form MIS 5241, public input and/or discussion of agenda items. And this is the first of 2 opportunities for people to speak in the public, and this will be 4 minutes. And as always, we don't know until Monday night. 7 is committee and staff reports. 7.1 is in-county travel paid for the period of January 6th through January 6th through the 26th, 2022. And 7.2 is out-of-county travel paid for the period of January 6th through the 26th, 2022. 7.3, certificates of participation, the School Board of Okaloosa County, Florida Master Lease Program, Series 2022A, update presented by Steve Horton, Deputy Superintendent. Mr. Horton, I see you're making your way to the podium.
Thanks, Chairman Bryant and board members. I just wanted to give you an update on where we are following the board's resolution that was passed in December regarding certificate of participation funding for construction projects identified in the school sales tax program. So if you'll allow me to kind of go through that, and then we'll accept questions and obviously can follow up with any additional information you need. So again, this is a presentation just updating the board on where we are on that certificate of participation process that we've talked about for several board meetings now in the past. I want to kind of give you a timeline, and certainly this timeline of important dates are just going back to December 13th of 2021, but this all really goes back over a year now to when the sales tax referendum was approved by the voters back in November of 2020. The timeline that I put before you here today starts December 13th when this board authorized the issuance of certificates of participation through School Board Resolution 21-08. And so that was prior to our Christmas break. At that time, the resolution authorized certificates of participation to be issued in an amount not to exceed $130 million. And at that same board meeting, if you recall, and certainly we can go back and folks can go back and look at that board meeting as well, the school board approved a guaranteed maximum price, which we refer to as a GMP, under a Program 6 Task Order 12, which is just our nomenclature for these things. That was the GMP, if you recall, where all of the construction projects that were cafetoriums, multi-purpose facilities, classroom additions, all of those cafeteria, or those projects that are construction in nature were brought to us by Jacobs Titan, our total program manager, with a guaranteed maximum price. And so the board approved both those items at that particular meeting. Following that, and that resolution, as a reminder, authorized the board chair and the superintendent to enter into and identify and determine certificate of participation funding within parameters set in that resolution. And so when we came back in January, one of the things that we did was we had to receive a rating for our school district financial status from Moody's and Fitch. And so when you go out into the marketplace to raise funds, there's a rating that's established, and that's for not only school districts but governmental agencies. And so we went through that process, and on January 17th we received our Moody's and Fitch ratings, which were AA ratings, which are good ratings. The Moody's and Fitch reports are available out to the public, and they indicate positive feedback from those rating agencies on the school district with regard to its cash balances, low level of debt, and any number of things. So those ratings came to us, and they were expected based on our conversations with our own financial advisors. So we were pleased to receive those ratings on January 17th. So if you think when investors go out and look to invest in school districts funding or governmental funding, they want to see that the entity shows strong ability to repay those funds and to live up to the obligations that are set forth in the program. On February,
Mr. Horton, may I
yes, sir.
ask a question now? Or would
Certainly.
you prefer
No,
that we
absolutely.
wait? And of course, those ratings, those are used for what purpose? To analyze risk? Is that the intent?
They do, Dr. White, and so investors look at those ratings, they analyze risk. So then that obviously in the financial world, higher risk means higher rates, higher cost of money, And so the better those ratings are, the lower interest cost, if you will, the district would be asked to pay for those obligations.
Okay. All right, so I think what you're saying is that because it's a low risk, it's also a low cost, is that right?
That is correct. Yeah, that's correct. So, and that's what the district, and I think the district's financial standing, the low debt levels, the good balance sheet that the district has leads to that low risk in the eyes of investors and a lower cost.
And you mentioned Moody's.
Mm-hmm.
And for folks that might not know, could you just maybe take a moment to explain that? I mean, that's an independent entity, is that correct?
They are. Moody's and Fitch both are independent rating services. They're not affiliated with the state of Florida. They're not affiliated with DOE. They're not affiliated with certainly with the school district. They conduct these types of ratings across the country for agencies, for businesses, and so they've got vast experience and knowledge and understanding of the process. So what happens is they look at not only the economics of the area of Okaloosa County and Northwest Florida and look at the growth potential there, but specifically our balance sheet, our financial statements. And it's a rigorous process, and they ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, I'm sure they do, because a lot of folks that are investing a significant amount of money are depending on the accuracy of their analysis. So I think you said we were a AA?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
And what does that mean? Does that mean fair or good, or do they have other ratings, or how does that go, just for the public?
AA, so I will provide some update on that to you, but
Okay.
AA rating is a good rating. It is a typical rating of school districts that have good, sound financial backing to it. And certainly in the state of Florida, those rating services, again, because they work throughout the country with school districts and otherwise, the funding process in individual states can have an impact on that overall rating. So our funding is based on student enrollment, and as you know, the legislature is in session now, and so when they determine the funding and the base student allocation, these rating services understand that the school district at some level does not have control over all of the funding that comes in from the state.
Okay.
And because of that, it factors in.
I see, I
But-
understand that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
But all things considered, that AA rating is a very good rating for the school district.
Yeah. And I think you probably have some evidence that it's a pretty good rating based on the number of people that wanted to, and maybe you'll speak about that.
Yes, sir, absolutely will, absolutely will. So to Dr. White's point, on February 1st, what happens is the offering goes live. And after some pre-conference and negotiations, and recall the board approved through an RFP, a request for proposal process, through a competitive selection process, the board authorized underwriting services to conduct this transaction back in the fall. And if you recall, we had a couple of members, one member of our Citizens Oversight Committee, Jason Belcher, Mr. Bob Bennett, I think Dr. Diane Kelly was on that as well from the construction standpoint. So Bank of America was selected as the senior manager for this project. So on February 1st, Bank of America led our entrance into the marketplace, and it was a very interesting morning. So we were able to look at a live spreadsheet, if you will, when this offering went to market, and watched as individual and corporate and investors weighed in on Okaloosa County's certificate of participation process. So in the first 15 minutes, we're kind of sitting, waiting, and anxious and nervous. And then in short order, all of the certificates of participation, the entire funding amount was absorbed, was purchased by investors throughout the country. And it got to a point where during the morning, we had 6 times the demand for our certificates than what we were in the market searching for. And that's a good thing. It's a great thing. And so that included some large investors, municipal large investors, and some individual investors. And so once that process is complete, the team gets back together, and it's a supply and demand situation. And so what happens at that point is our investment team and our underwriting resources say, we have this many people who want our certificates. We only need this much funding. So we get to go out back into the market and adjust the rate we're willing to offer. So we went back into the market and lowered the rate that we're willing to pay. And then those folks who are investing know that and understand it, and we still had multiple times over the request. So it's not an exact science. We've got experts out there, independent from the school district, that absolutely advise us on directions, and they've done a great job, in my opinion, doing that to this point. So we were fully funded, if you will, and I think you'll see on the agenda item that's out there for the public, you'll see the maturities. And so what we're doing is essentially these certificates have maturity dates beginning this October and then extending all the way out through October of 2030. They align with the duration of the sales tax program, because we did not want to, in essence, borrow funds further than the citizens advised us that they'd be willing to provide half-cent sales tax. So that's just sound financial practice, and that was, again, the recommendation of the superintendent. So we're now at that point where some people say, well, where's the money right now? So as we move into this month, on February 14th, which is next Monday afternoon, we'll have a pre-closing and document signing. And again, based on the nature of the resolution and what that authorized, we've already gotten the board's approval to complete all of these processes in accordance with the guidelines that the board set. So you won't see the item coming back to the board for approval again. What will happen is on Monday, there'll be a pre-closing where the board chair and the superintendent sign the documents. And then what I'm advised right now is on February 16th is when the closing and the transfer of funds will occur. Now, the district has a trustee account that will receive those funds, and then at that point, we're keeping in contact with Jacobs Titan, because we want to make sure as we do things that the funds are there to do that. They are set, and I've kind of gotten ahead of myself here a little bit, but they are then set to begin work on these construction projects. Now, we'll talk about what that means again, and we all know that we've been a year and 3 months into this process now, so we know it takes time for some of these things to occur. But we're excited about that. We have passed a milestone as of February 16th in our process with the capital and sales tax program. April 2022 is when the first payment is due on these, and that would be an interest-only payment. So you'll see it's not very much time to have that money borrowed. We'll have an interest-only payment then, and then from that point forward, October of each year will be when a payment is made. And so those payments are not insignificant in amount. The construction projects that are taking place are certainly not insignificant either. And so it'll be what we'll do is each summer when we bring together the capital budget for you and outline the 5-year capital plan, you'll see those payments in there structured as repayment and prioritized, because that's one of the things that the school board and the superintendent will make sure we do is we'll honor our obligations. The folks that rated the district AA expect that that's the case, and that will absolutely be the case. So that's kind of in a nutshell timeline, and I'll pause for a second on questions if there are any. Okay.
I just have a comment. I appreciate the timeline here, and it just is showing the public, the people that supported the half-cent sales tax, that we are definitely being good stewards of the money that's been presented so far. So.
Yes, sir. And this is part of that plan that knew there was going to be a lot of planning involved in these larger construction projects, and so when the board and the superintendent stood behind the fact that when that referendum was passed in November, that we begin immediately on the safety and security in the school district. Those are less in terms of planning and design because we had done some of that. So this past year, the district has been focusing on the safety and security issues at the schools, the single point of entry and the perimeter work that's been done. So all that's still occurring on schedule, and they're doing very well. If you've been out to a school, you've seen some of that. We're still tracked to complete that by the end of this summer for next school year, which again is many years in advance of when we otherwise would have been able to get that accomplished. And so that's a very important aspect to this, so that and some roofing projects that were all done this past year were all because of sales tax revenue. And so this is just now the next phase of that, those larger projects. And just for those, and Dr. White has taught me this over the years, to make sure that the folks understand exactly what this is, because it may be the first time they're tuning in. Certificates of participation it's a financing method that's used by school districts, and we mentioned not only across Florida, but throughout the nation, and other governmental agencies to acquire real property. And that's kind of a technical definition, but the construction of facilities falls into that. So when we're building something and we want to get those construction projects started and completed sooner for the benefit of the families and the children who need them and the teachers, this is the method by which we can do it, and districts across Florida have done this. And the repayment on those certificates comes from future revenue sources like the half-cent sales tax. So we know there's a stream of income, a revenue coming in that we're obligating to use to repay these certificates. And I mentioned earlier that there are 19 capital projects across 15 school campuses in Okaloosa County. And the other thing that's important to know about this is under certificates of participation, the expectation is, and our expectation is, that these projects are all planned for completion within 3 years. So while the sales tax program will go out through 2030, and we'll continue to receive those monthly revenue amounts from the state on sales tax revenue, these projects will be done and running at the end of 3 years based on our plans. And so then those funds can still come in. The repayment on the COPs will continue to go out all the way through 2030.
And may I speak to that just for a
Yes,
moment,
sir.
Mr.
Yes, sir.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Just to say that I so much appreciate what you're explaining to folks, because I was taught a long time ago that parents and taxpayers want to see the results of their efforts now, not later. And if we had to wait until we collected all the money to do these projects, these folks would be paying for 10 years and maybe not see anything. And this way, they'll get to see it immediately. And I'm very grateful for the explanation. You know, we've been doing these things for a long time, but they were always kind of almost a mystery. But now the explanation makes it very clear and very helpful, and I appreciate the good work that you and the superintendent and all the staff has done to make this a reality, so that parents and citizens can see the results of them paying additional taxes quickly. And thank you for that.
And if
Yes, sir.
I can follow up on that, Dr. White, I believe now every school has a sign out in front of it that is showing what projects are being done as a result, or with the effect of the half-cent sales tax.
Yes, sir. And I think there'll be, if you'll notice those plaques that are underneath the sign that say what's happening, I think you're going to see even more of those on a particular school location, so that's we're not finished.
And the district's dashboard,
Yes.
OkalusaSchools.com. I go to it frequently, in fact, and it's very, very helpful, and I've never seen that before. And so, again, a commendation for putting that out there so that anyone can see the status of their child's school or their community school and the progress on how their tax money is being spent. Thank you for doing that.
Yes, sir. And I would thank Jacobs Titan for supporting us with that, because it's all of their project and planning information that goes there, and so they do a great job with it. Sometimes constructions and upgrades are happening, and it takes a month or so for it to get to catch up. And also, before I go on, I would just say that none of this would be possible without Julie Perry and her group. That what they do behind the scenes to get us to a point where we can actually do this is remarkable. And I will say, we've been sent 85 question due diligence pieces from the underwriters and from Moody's and Fitch rating services, and so we've got to respond to all of those. And some of them, the answers are hard to work through, but Julie and her staff, amazing work on it. So we're lucky to have her here. We are very lucky to have her here.
Yeah.
And that's our finance department, for people who don't know.
It is.
That's
It is.
And
Ms. Perry
meanwhile,
and her
you
finance department.
might also say that meanwhile, they were undergoing audits, to which they got superlative outcomes of that. So they were multitasking many times while undertaking this as well.
Yes, ma'am. You know, throughout their day, it's multitasking all the time. There's no question about it. I've got a list here again of and those are all available on our website of the cafetorium and multipurpose projects and classroom addition projects. And then the last thing I'd say, and again, take more questions for you, bring back more information that you want. Dr. White alluded to it. The OCSD half-cent sales tax capital program is on our home web page, scrolling down to the bottom. And when you go there, you can look at our projects, you can look at our dashboard, you can look at information on our Citizens Oversight Committee, and news and announcements. So we encourage folks to go there, ask us questions if they have any. And again, in some cases, maybe we haven't updated it based on something that's happened, but we're continuing to keep that up to date. And you'll see an agenda item further down the road where it's time to reappoint or update our Citizens Oversight Committee, your resolution authorizing that. And again, as a reminder, that supports and puts an eye for transparency from a citizens group to look at what we're doing with the sales tax program. And I'm happy to come back up when that arrives. But that group is up for reappointment because the resolution has a 1-year membership, and I'm happy to say that many of those members wanted to serve a second year because they're invested. They've seen this process about these construction projects come to fruition, and now here we are. We're about to get started on them, so they wanted to stay on and continue to watch and advise that process. Yes, sir. Anything else?
Board members? All right. Thank you, Mr. Orton. And so now we will move down to item 7.4, State of Florida, State Board of Administration, Local Government Surplus Funds Trust Fund, Florida Prime, an External Investment Pool Financial Audit for the fiscal years ended June 30th, 2021 and June 30th, 2020. Report number 2022-082, January 2022. As presented by Julie Perry, Interim Chief Financial Officer and Budgeting Director. And 7.5 will be the Northwest Florida State College Collegiate High School, a charter school and restricted fund of Northwest Florida State College financial statements and supplemental information for the year ended June 30th, 2021. And Mr. McInnes, this was just, this particular item is just renewing their charter. Was there?
So this is the financial statements.
Okay.
That item is further down on your agenda.
That's right. My fault. I was already ahead of the game.
And may I just make a comment, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
This, of course, is a charter school, and while the legislature has seen fit to put them under local school boards, we all know that they operate relatively independently. Is that correct, Mr. McInnes?
Yes, sir.
And I think they even have their own board.
They do.
Is that right? But again, the legislature has seen fit to put them under us should there be any issues or problems.
Right. Of course. That's how it works. All right, and item 7.6, quarterly risk management update 2021 quarter 4, presented by Russ Frakes. And before Mr. Frakes speaks, I would just like to say thank you to Mr. Chambers for allowing this presentation to happen. I think it's important that people see how important risk management has become to the school district and how it's helping us do better things in the district, whether it's through training or awareness, things like that. So, Mr. Frakes, I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning, Chairman Bryant, board members, and Superintendent Chambers. I've provided some documents for you there in that maroon colored envelope, or folder rather. So what is Mr. Bryant initiated there, what I'm going to do is bring some information to you each quarter about the risk management program, specifically focused on our property and casualty operations that primarily myself and Krista Shea, who's with me here today as well, operate for the district. Of course, as a matter of course, we're a part of the Florida School Boards Insurance Trust, and just so that I know that you're aware, but so that anyone else is, that may be listening is aware, the Florida School Boards Insurance Trust, or FSBIT, is an organization that is a subsidiary of the Florida School Boards Association. It exists solely to provide risk management and insurance services for Florida school districts. There are 12 member districts, of which, of course, we are one. Mr. Bryant serves as the trustee for Okaloosa County, and so has a vote in all the business of the trust. They assist us with obtaining the insurance policies that cover everything from our school buses to our buildings, everything in between, provide our workers' compensation, claims adjusting services, everything from bill review to adjusting individual claims, and also helping protect the district whenever liability situations arise as well, with a general liability policy and adjusting staff that they have there as well. So we've been full members of the trust since 2017. So all of those meetings that we attend on a quarterly basis all focus on a cycle that really culminates in the renewal of our insurance program. Bring that to you. That renews in July each year. I, of course, will bring that to you here upcoming once those policies are all secured. And it's a big task to do that. They're out there in the marketplace. I just spoke with one of the brokers yesterday about that process. They're going out to the marketplace. They're going to Atlanta, Bermuda, London to secure coverage. That's all of the policy procurement that takes place each year in the insurance marketplace is pretty complex. So they assist us with doing all of that and secure coverage for us. So there's some, and some of the documents that I've included for you just really show what's going on in the marketplace. Where are we now? The insurance market is hardening, and a hard market versus a soft market would be a hard market is an era of increasing prices, and we've been that has turned from a soft market to a hard market about 2 years ago. Insurance coverage is becoming more scarce, so that drives the price up.
So you mean like everything else that's going up in the country?
That's correct, and it's
insurance costs are as well.
That's exactly tied in with that, as you can you're kind of alluding to, Dr. White, the labor market. The cost of building materials, all those things have an impact on what it takes, because they know if they have to build back one of our school buildings, of course, it's going to cost more now than it would have 2 or 3 years ago. So insurance prices adjust accordingly. All those forces are at play for us as well when we go to insure our buildings or reinsure those buildings. So we're looking at 7.5% increases in building costs, 5% increases in contents, overall resulting in about a 5 to 20, somewhere in the range of a 5 to 20% increase in costs on property in the property market.
That closely parallels what I saw on the news this morning concerning the price of groceries.
Yeah, absolutely. You see it across the board. So we're not immune to that in the insurance industry. So there are those forces that are at play on what we're looking at as far as the renewal goes. Just the pure market forces. Yeah, so that information is pretty interesting information. Just an excerpt from Alliant's presentation that they made, and Alliant is the broker for the trust. Our experience is another factor in that. What's going on in Okaloosa County School District with our claims, workers' compensation claims, general liability claims. Those are the primary drivers. Workers' compensation probably chief among those. Of our experience. So that's the other document that I've included is just a quick spreadsheet that speaks directly to our experience and is included in the mathematical equation that all results in what we're going to pay for our insurance in the next year. So, and I would simply highlight the 2 boxes that are highlighted in yellow there. What is utilized is a formula that uses a 5-year rolling average. So they take those 5 years claims experience, and that's the average of the experience factor that's included in the renewal contribution calculation. So we're dropping off in the top table there. You see we're dropping off about a $2 million a year from 2015-16. So that's going to be removed from the equation. And then you see in the 22 renewal there in that middle section, we're going to add 2021's results. So about a $1.5 million a year, almost $1.6 million a year there. So about a $600,000 or so swing in what's being used in the calculation. So that's good. So we want to see those more expensive years falling off over time, we want to really focus on, as we go forward, paying out as little as we can, controlling those claim costs as best we can, so that we continue to see a downward trend on our renewals. And you see next year we're going to lose a sub $1 million a year. We've really got to tighten it up and to not have a negative impact from that renewal. So positive market forces are working against us a bit. Our experience is helping us out. We'll probably still in the wash there, see an overall increase just because those market forces are very strong. But overall, we're doing what we can control. That's very important that we do what we can control to help as much as possible with that renewal. And to just highlight one briefly for you, some of the things that we're utilizing to help control those costs. Vector Solutions is formerly known as Safe Schools. I know you may have heard us speak about Safe Schools before. It is a training platform that we have access to through our membership in FSBIT that enables us to deploy video-based trainings that have all manner of subject material that are included. It's curated content that includes information from industry experts on all manner of topics. And a matter of fact, that it has some information there on human trafficking. You could information on transportation, bus safety, classroom safety, all manner of topics, and we've begun to utilize that. I included a briefing from Dave Stevens' presentation that he made at the last trust meeting. Dave Stevens is the executive director of the trust, and it shows the trainings that the individual member districts are doing. And you see there, we're showing it at number 3 there for that quarter, just about 6,000 trainings that we deployed through this Vector Solutions platform. So that enables our employees to get into this system, consume these trainings, and they're probably anywhere from 20 to 30 minute, sometimes 15-minute trainings. So they're easily consumed, they're trackable, we can document when this training was completed and follow up with employees to make sure that they get that training done. So, and it enables us to do that efficiently.
Real quick,
so,
Russ, on this
yes.
on the Safe Schools,
Mm-hmm.
the one thing that I was really excited to see was that we were number 3, and that means we are utilizing the program.
Yes.
Considering that pre-pandemic we were typically down at the bottom.
Yes,
so again, this is a testament to the superintendent and,
yes, absolutely.
and your team getting people on board with this, because this is something that is a benefit to them. It helps them.
Absolutely. And Dave Stevens, what he'll do is he didn't do it this particular meeting, but he'll superimpose the claims experience with the trainings utilized, and there's an inverse relationship. The more trainings you're doing, at least not necessarily causality, but there is correlation there between those trainings conducted and the claims experience.
Well, and in fact, it may help us reduce cost.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
That's the bottom line.
Absolutely.
Here.
So,
and I don't know, Superintendent, but and I don't know how all this works. Dr. Kelly, you might know, but if there were a way that our employees could get points for doing these trainings, that might facilitate even more usage and more knowledge and reduce the bottom line, so to speak.
That's right. Well, in fact, that is the case, Dr. White. I've included a graphic just to summarize and show what's happened over time with us. So we've started using the product and getting a little more into it, as Mr. Bryan indicated there during the pandemic shutdown. We were able to deploy trainings for bus drivers that were just simply sent home, and we had to pay those individuals because we didn't want to lose them.
Right.
We were able to deploy, and they consumed some 8,000 trainings or so during the course of that, hours and hours worth of training. So it was very useful in us quickly getting that and really kind of proved the concept for us. So you see there what we've done from year to year. We dipped a little bit in 2021, but this year it's really picked up, and we've increased the number of channels through which we're distributing this. So you can see here, we've done this. The top there was the top 3, which is a school level training. So we created, Krista Shea and myself met with all of our principals individually and created a custom program based on the claims experience, what kinds of claims they were seeing at their individual schools, to target those causes of those top 3 causes of loss that they were experiencing. So we picked those and Krista went through and picked all of those trainings to target those individual causes of loss. So we've got customized trainings that are being implemented at the school level. Frontline, Dr. White, we've got some use there, so they can pick up some credits on Frontline. So we've got we work with the FSBIT IT staff to tie in those 2 programs. Our substitute teachers are now starting to use it. Our threat assessment team is utilizing that. Jeff Moore worked with our FSBIT folks and with Krista to create videos that enable him to deploy the threat assessment team training that is very important. Our departments are starting to use this more and more. ESE department is utilizing a special module that we've purchased and as is transportation. And then we just got some other trainings in there. So all in all, 12,000, a little more than 12,000 trainings deployed there. So that's a great tool for us, and in fact, included the entire library in case anybody is interested. You can log on. All of you are in the system, so you can log in and actually peruse the library and even view some of the trainings if you're curious. So that's included there for you to view as well. So, and again, Dr. White, as you alluded to, the fewer dollars that we can expend on these risk management expenses or exposures, that frees up more resources for much more worthwhile topics, as Mr. Horton talked about. I will again bring more information to you next quarter. We'll probably be talking more about the renewal as it gets closer. So, but I appreciate your time this morning.
Well,
anything else?
Russ, Mr. Frakes, I appreciate you being here this morning, and school board members, I hope this is informative to you. I know I try to bring back as much information when I come back from a FSBIT meeting, but I felt it was important now, even more so, that
Yes.
That Mr. Frakes would come and address us every quarter just to keep things going, so we would see the progress or the things we need to
Yes.
correct. So,
Absolutely.
all right.
Absolutely.
Any questions?
Well, I was going to say, being that we're members of FSBIT, this is provided basically, let's say, free, this training. And also, just flipping through this quickly, see that these trainings are state-specific.
They are.
So if you're in
Yes.
Alabama, you go, okay, Florida, so they are
Yes, ma'am.
state-specific, which
Absolutely.
is, we don't always see that sometimes
Right.
in.
Right. And we also have
trainings.
one of the things that we've done, we had the ability to do some custom trainings. You can build a custom training within that. So for instance, we were able to deploy more than 3,000 trainings on the IT side to train on a particular topic. That platform enabled them to do it quickly and efficiently. We got that training, so we had 3,000 plus employees complete that training inside of, I think, 3 weeks, I believe it was. I think Mr. Horton was involved in that maybe a little bit, so.
Well, and thank
we
you
got
for
that-
calling
we got
us.
that
I know
done.
I enjoyed our conversation.
Yes,
that we
ma'am.
can kind of dig in deeper and I
Absolutely.
can ask questions.
Absolutely.
So thank you for taking your time.
Happy to do it.
So I'm wondering, this training, Dr. Kelly, from this, the Florida Alliance, that United, if there's any way that would fit in this, that we could, you said you can
We're
create
happy
your
to
own?
explore that. I'm
Right.
not familiar with it, but we could certainly
But
explore
I
it.
think there's already human trafficking.
There are some there, yes, but if you want to, like I said, there is the capability to do a custom training within the system as well.
And
you
so
can
how do we get this out to our employees that they can do these?
just simply assign that, and we have those conversations with our principals. Principals typically will call us and request, I want to do playground supervision training for all of my staff, and we'll make that assignment. Krista will go in and make that assignment.
Okay.
They'll have a certain time, they'll establish what time frame in which they want to complete that training. Then the system will send them emails to let them know, okay, you log in, and they'll see their assigned training completed. Then their completion goes, it's all reportable, so we'll be able to tell somebody's done, what an employee has done, what percentage of the completed assigned trainings have they completed at any given point. And then it sends them reminders as well, update, hey, you've got 2 weeks remaining to get this completed. So it's all deployable and monitored, can be monitored through the system as well.
And can these points, or whatever they get points for this?
Well, there are credits that are available through Frontline, so that, in other words, as they go through their professional development, so.
Right, so that counts towards
it goes,
their-
we have built some units, I believe we've got 2, I think at least, if not 3 out there that they can get credit, and they've started them pretty quickly, started at the beginning of the school year, so we will continue to explore, and the reason behind that chart was really so that we understand that we're looking at more and more channels of distribution for utilizing this platform. So it's going to become more and more useful for us. We're really only kind of scratching the surface. That we can get deeper with it, and we will. So it will develop over time, and I think become more and more useful to us.
Thank you.
And just a quick comment, very, very good presentation, and thank you for doing that for us. And just to say that sometimes when I talk with members of the public, that it's kind of eye-opening for them to think about that risk management is a serious issue for us. I mean, when you start thinking about it, that we have 30,000 students, and we have all these school centers, and we have all these buses, and we have 4,000 employees. The reality is, every day, there is significant risk
Absolutely.
for what can occur when you're moving that many people and you have that many folks involved.
That's right.
So risk management is a reality for us, and we're a $400 million a year business, and
That's right.
It's a reality not just for us, but for any major business. So thank you for doing this, Mr. Frakes.
Absolutely. Thank you, folks. All right.
So Russ, Mr. Frakes, real quick, I did want to acknowledge that Mr. Frakes at our last meeting that we had was named the operator trustee.
That's correct.
So not only does Okaloosa have my vote, but we also
Yeah,
have
that's right.
Russ's
We've got
vote.
two
So we
votes
actually
now.
have
We've got
two
two
votes
votes
out
now.
there.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
and then Ms. Shea, I see you're out there. Thank you for all that you do and your entire team.
Yes, absolutely.
Keep up the good work, and
Appreciate it. Thank you.
we'll see you next
All right.
go-round.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, so we are now to the agenda. Let me get there real quick. Keep going. So we're at Section 8, the consent agenda. 8.1 will be the approval of the consent agenda. And board members, as we move down, as always, feel free to stop me at any item. 8.2, approval of the minutes of the workshop meeting of January 20th, 2022, minutes of regular meeting of January 24th, 2022. 8.3, appropriation of District 4 School Board member capital outlay funds to Richburg School Life Skills Program for a washing machine in the amount of $588.67. 8.4, appointment of members to the 2022 sales surtax Citizens Oversight Committee. And I know Mr. Horton just spoke about that. 8.5, revised fiscal year 2021 through 2022 child care fees. And this is presented by Julie Perry. 8.6, invoices to be approved for payment. 8.7, school donations.
Just a comment there.
Yes.
Some of those are pretty significant donations, and I just want those members of the public and those businesses to recognize how much we value their donations to our schools, because they very much are appreciated.
Yes. All right. 8.8, ITB 22-09, new roof for the JROTC building at Baker School. 8.9, renewal of ITB 18-07, custodial equipment and repair services district-wide. 8.10, tag-on bid purchase over $25,000 WTI. 8.11, tag-on bid purchase over $25,000 Apple Incorporated. 8.12, self-help project for fundraising and planning only for the purchase of a video scoreboard at Choctawhatchee High School. 8.13, sale and disposal of surplus property. 8.14, memorandum of understanding between the Department of Defense and the Okaloosa County School Board. 8.15, memorandum of agreement between the School Board of Okaloosa County, Florida and CDAC Behavioral Healthcare Incorporated to provide in-school mental health services to students with parent consent. And Ms. Schroeder, I believe you would like to come and speak about this item.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Bryant, for giving me just a few minutes to introduce a couple of our new community collaborative partners for mental health. And first, I want to thank Mr. Chambers for the mental health focus that we as a district are taking. Our students really need that, and how timely with the presentation earlier from the status of women in our community. Our students need the skills to be able to battle those kinds of things and those vulnerabilities that are presenting themselves to our kids at this time. And so I want to bring up from CDAC Behavioral Health, Alicia Scribner and Sue Nast, and they're going to share just briefly on how their program is going to help provide our students with those skills that they need.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing us to be here.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Alicia Scribner. I'm the CEO of CDAC, Behavioral Healthcare. Everyone knows this is CDAC. We're a nonprofit organization. We've been around about 50 years. Actually, last year we celebrated our 50th anniversary. So we provide services across the Circuit 1 area, and we have several different programs. We work with families involved in child welfare. We work with the Veterans Treatment Program in Escambia County. We do community prevention and primarily Escambia County. And we have school-based programs, and these school-based programs are in Escambia County, and we're actually in every school in Santa Rosa County. So we have a big presence in schools in the circuit, and I'm excited to be able to come over to Okaloosa County. I'm an Okaloosa County resident. I have connections to the education system. My husband is a retired teacher from Okaloosa County, as well as my mother-in-law. So this is coming home for me. We are an agency that is licensed by the Department of Children and Families, so we have all of our programs are licensed. We are accredited by the Council on Accreditation, and we do contracting with the managing entity, which is Big Bend Community-Based Care. You may have heard of that in the region. And that's a little bit about our organization. I'm going to step aside now and let Sue tell you about the program that we hope to bring here.
Hi, thank you for having us. I'm Sue Nast. I'm Director of School Programs for CDAC, and I started in 1991 at one of the first elementary schools that we contracted in within Santa Rosa County Schools. So fast forward, now I'm overseeing all of our school-based programs. We have expanded to every school, every elementary, middle, and high school in Santa Rosa County, and we also serve Escambia County middle schools. So what we have in the schools is we have a master's level counselor. Their degree is either in social work or mental health counseling, and they are based at the particular schools, and they provide services, individual and group, to the students that are referred that have been identified as having multiple risk factors. So the referrals come from administrators, teachers, guidance counselors, sometimes the parents can refer if they've had another child that has gone through the program. And we work with those students primarily in a group setting initially. And the groups that we provide are evidence-based groups. We do have 3 different curricula that we're currently using. Botven life skills training. We also have a curriculum for the younger students called SS Grin, and it's a social skills curriculum. And we also have something that we've just recently implemented, Too Good for Drugs. So these are evidence-based curricula, and also in addition to that, we do identify specific issues that the kids are having based on the referrals. And once those are identified, we can work with those students on those specific issues, be it self-esteem, anger management, stress management. We have a group called Choices for kids who have had early experimentation with drugs or alcohol. We also have grief groups for kids who have experienced a recent loss in their family, or separation for kids perhaps who have had a parent that's been incarcerated. So we do provide our services in the schools. We do try to limit pulling from reading or math or intensive courses. In our high school programs, we rotate. If there's a group 1 week from first period, they come out, the next week from second period, the next week from third period, so that they're only missing about one or 2 times of that class for the period that we serve them in groups. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
That'd be the name of the program.
Oh, that might be good. Yes, so in the elementary schools, it's RISE, and it's Resiliency, Increasing Skills in Education. Yes, so that is and so currently we're looking to start in 3 elementary schools in Okaloosa, just because it's so late in the year right now. But we're looking to start at Shalimar Elementary, Elliott Point, and Wright. And so that will be our start, and then we can expand from there.
So, quick question regarding the 3 schools that were chosen. Ms. Schroeder, how was those schools?
So what we did is we took our caseload currently. This is an expansion of our current services. It's not to replace what we're already doing. So what we did is we took the caseloads at each of those schools, and those are the highest numbers in the south end. They wanted to kind of stay in the south end to get started for this year. And so we identified those 3 schools. So those 3 schools have the highest numbers of students already involved in services. So again, the goal is to put some prevention type work in place to give those kids the skills they need, so perhaps they may not need one-on-one services as they progress. So their plan is to expand, but we were going to start with those three at this point.
And Mr. Bryant,
Yes, sir.
may I
Yes, sir.
follow up? Ms. Schroeder, this would be for you, and thank you, ladies, for your presentation. I guess the first thing that I was interested in is that I believe this is a focus for the entire state of Florida.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the state has been involved, and I think, if I remember correctly, Ms. Perry, that the state's also providing funding for mental health services. Ms. Schroeder, you might know about that?
Yes, sir. So the state is providing funding through the Mental Health Assistance Allocation Plan that we bring to you every year in August. This particular program is also funded through the state, not necessarily out of our funds.
I see.
When the legislature put its focus on mental health, they provided funding to quite a few different community agencies to really bring that focus to children and children's wellness and things like that. So it's my understanding that this funding is through that as well.
Our funding is through our managing entity,
Okay.
and it's actually coming from federal block grant funding.
Okay,
for
all right, so
substance use
there's
prevention.
some state focus, as we know, and then there's federal focus because, I mean, it's no secret, I mean, things have changed, and this is a needed, necessary service. And I heard you mention about a referral process. So could you just speak about that for a minute? I mean, I know you said that it was through the principal maybe, or maybe the guidance committee, or I mean, this is something that a child might be referred to, but it required, I think I heard you say parental consent.
Correct.
So could we just kind of talk about that quickly?
Sure, yes. So we do have a form, and it lists the different areas and the different risk factors. And so we do have academic risk factors, we have family risk factors, and then we have personal risk factors.
Okay.
So for a child to be eligible for services, they need to at least show a minimum of one risk factor in each category. So those forms will be distributed to the school staff, and then once the kids are referred, then we would make contact. And it depends upon how the school would like to do that. Sometimes the guidance counselors will make the initial contact. Sometimes they prefer for us to. But we will contact the families, and we will meet with the families, and we will review the components of the program, and then they will sign a consent. And then we also meet with the students, and they also sign. So that's how it starts.
Very good.
And I would just add to that this group comes with some name recognition for me, because working with the Teen Suicide Prevention Program and having gone to several conventions under their name, I've heard of the Big Bend and Circuit 1 and CDAC in relation to all of those programs. So I'm very happy to see that you're expanding in our neighborhood too.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Nice
thank
to
you.
meet you all.
Yes. So now we'll move down to item 8.16 and 8.17 will be together there. So this is where I got ahead earlier in the meeting, but charter school contract modification between the School Board of Okaloosa County, Florida, and the governing board for the Collegiate High School at Northwest Florida State College for the 2022-2023 school year. And then 8.17, amended contract agreement between the School Board of Okaloosa County and Northwest Florida State College for the 2022 through 2023 school year, acknowledging the Collegiate High School program 2022 through 2023. And Ms. Lightborn or Mr. McInnes, just kind of explaining this particular item, if we can have them explain what's going on with these items.
And there are some representatives from the.
Yes, and I was
collegiate
going to
school here.
acknowledge that we do have people from the Northwest.
This is a request that came from Northwest Florida State College and the Collegiate High School, and they might be able to explain to you what was the impetus of the request, but the bottom line is this is a request to modify the current charter to include the 9th grade. And the second item on the agenda is just the annual acknowledgement that the statutes require you to do, that you have a collegiate program in this school district. It's being modified. If you approve the charter to add the 9th grade, that agreement will be modified to pick up the 9th grade as well.
And that's why I wanted to explain that it was going to start offering a 9th grade, which right now it's just 10 through 12. And in my opinion, I think that's a great thing, because some of these kids, students will go through the program and then they have to go back to their high school unless they have the opportunity, like my neighbor who actually went from 8th to 10th grade, but not all the students get that luxury, so they have to go back to their home school. But now this will be able to, for those kids who want to take that track, this is going to help them just have that continuity to it. So, all right.
Is there a limit on how many students they can take? Is that part of their charter? I didn't.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
sorry.
ma'am, and they have included numbers there in this proposal.
Okay.
And have shown you the target numbers for the first year, and then obviously as it rolls along, those numbers increase, because the 9th grade class then moves to the 10th grade, and they'll have another 9th grade class. But like I said, they're here from the college and certainly could explain any part of that program.
And my understanding with talking with Dr. Stevenson is that first year's number will be 50.
Okay. And you work on a lottery system, right, on those students? Is that correct?
We would love for y'all to come up and,
I love how they're all pointing to each other.
You do it, you do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tell me
And,
the system of choosing, remind me of the system of choosing the students. I'm assuming that would continue with bringing in the 9th grade.
And maybe introduce yourself.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm Anthony Boyer. I'm the principal of the Collegiate High School and Dean of College Pathways
Welcome.
for Northwest Florida State College. And thank you all for allowing me to speak before you this morning, and Superintendent and Board Chair and the remaining board members. And yes, we do. We operate on a lottery for the Collegiate High School, and it depends on the number of applicants or positions that we have available. And if at that point, if we do not have applicants for all of those positions, then of course we will accept all of the applicants at that time. But if we have exceed that number, then that's when we move to our lottery process.
Okay, thank you for that.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Deidre Price, Vice President for Academic Affairs at the college, and we're really, really excited about the opportunity to be able to expand in this way. We were selected as one of 5 institutions in the Florida college system to receive $2 million to be able to do a project like this, to expand our opportunities for early college students to go into CTE pathways specifically. So very, very excited about the project and the program, and we do agree with you. We think that it's a good opportunity for students not to skip that 9th grade year, but really to continue with us in the 9th grade moving forward.
That's great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you very much. And now we'll move to item 8.18, School Affiliation Agreement between the School Board of Okaloosa County, Florida, and the Manor at Bluewater Bay, LLC, for the Practical Nursing Program at the Ocalusa Technical College. 8.19, Charter School Contract Extension and Amendment Agreement between the School Board of Okaloosa County and the Okaloosa Academy. And then 8.20, Okaloosa Academy Calendar Revision for the 2021 through 2022 school year. 8.21, English Language Learner, ELL, 3-year district plan. And this will be presented by Ms. Lisa Tucker. Okay. 8.22, course adoption for the 2021 through 2022 school year. And 8.23, extended drop.
I'd like to comment on that.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
First of all, Mr. Superintendent, I want to commend you on bringing this program back. You and I have spoken on this topic many times over the time that I've been on the board, and you know that I'm very much in favor of it, and it's been about 5 years since we discontinued this at one time, and I think it's, to be cliche in a way, say it's a win-win, because not only does it allow some of our senior employees to continue to work, and of course they do a great job. At this time, it's obvious that we need those good employees to stay with us. And so I'm glad to see that this is going to benefit us as a district, and also allow those, the whole design, as I studied it for this program in the state, was to keep people in the classroom. and I appreciate that. And I want to commend you and Dr. Hale on the application form. I perused this quite a bit, and what I like that has improved, and let me go ahead and say I benefited from this program as a teacher when I was in the classroom. I was on the extended drop, and what I liked about the application is the almost check-off list approach, to where it's it allows very definite, if you're in this classification and you do these things, you're in. It does not leave for a lot of, so to speak, judgment call on anybody's part, and I think that's going to be a benefit for us and for the employee that's looking at that to see if they qualify. So thank you for the effort you put into that. I think I'm looking forward to seeing how many of our employees take advantage of this, and that'll ultimately help us out. So thank you to both of you. Appreciate it.
All right, and finally, the added item 8.24, motor vehicle lease for disaster transportation services between the School Board of Okaloosa County and Belvedere Commons of Fort Walton Beach. And now we'll go to Section 9, Superintendent's Human Resource Recommendations. And the first two items will be information only on Monday night. 9.1, employees on administrative leave. 9.2, deferred retirement option program. 9.3, add a field report for the 2021 through 2022 school year. 9.4, proposed revisions to the administrative personnel salary schedule for fiscal year 2021 through 2022. 9.5, department staffing restructure. 9.6, employment separations. 9.7, personnel recommendations. 9.8, employee transfers. 9.9, reinstatement, reimbursement of sick leave due to line of duty, illness, injury, medical examination. And then finally, 9.10, leave without pay.
I'm sorry, can we go back to something, please?
Yes, ma'am.
9.4 on this administrative salary. I actually know the answer to this, but I would appreciate for the public if Dr. Hale would explain why we're looking at this, what precipitated that we need to make this decision at this time.
Yes, ma'am. There were just, our salary schedule was constructed in its methodology quite some time ago, long before pay for performance became a thing. And so there's a variety, a plethora of qualified candidates that would no longer desire to move into the administrative salary schedule because it did not provide a financial opportunity for them. And so there was no language that gave them a place to be slotted into the salary schedule. So that was the impetus for this reconstruction. And there's more scenarios with regard to pay for performance and non-pay for performance. And quite frankly, our old methodology just didn't work. There was no place to slot people, and there was no room for internal promotion for a lot of people that didn't want to take a pay cut to be an administrator.
Yeah, I was going to say, in other words, they would lose pay to change, and we want to foster people to move up. But I wanted that explanation because anytime the public sees us increase salaries, of course, pay, they want to, so there you go, paying people more, all that, especially on the administrative ranks. And so also that pay per performance, that is a statewide program that's given where certain criteria are met that allows for, quote, a bonus. Is that correct?
Well, there's a statutory requirement that teachers that qualify for pay for performance and administrators receive a certain additional pay raise or an additional pay increase above a normal step that a non-pay for performance person would receive. So the ultimate result is that through the algorithms and methodology for that increased payment, people there are actually instructors that are out there exceeding the current administrative salary schedule. And so there was nowhere for them to be slotted from a promotion from within type of a situation. It's really just placement language. There are no increased numbers on there.
Right.
It just gives people the ability to figure out a way to slot themselves into the administrative salary schedule from the instructional ranks.
Exactly. I just wanted that explanation so that the public could see why we're doing that at this time, and I appreciate you coming up and giving it that.
And it's a good question, Ms. Vanchek, and thank you for asking. And Mr. Chair, I'd like to just comment just briefly and say this, that we've already spoken about risk management tonight. And when you encourage people to leave one classification and say, look, will you step over here and assume some risk and take on administrative responsibilities, if there's no benefit to do that, or in fact, if the pay might even be less, you can't blame them for not doing it. And then the superintendent, he doesn't get anybody willing to help and do the various kinds of things that the administrators have to do. That just doesn't work. That doesn't make sense. So thank you for bringing this forward, because it is something that folks need to be able to look at if they're going to assume that additional risk and additional responsibility, that all of these administrators sitting in this room know exactly what I'm talking about. So thank you, Dr. Hayes.
Yes, sir.
And I will just comment, coming from the private sector, this is something that even in private businesses, they look at to encourage people to get into those leadership positions. So at least we're looking at that so we can prepare our future leaders for tomorrow. So.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so we're now down to section 10, discussion agenda, and right now there has been nothing moved from consent agenda. Section 11, one of our favorite parts of the meeting, construction program, owners, representatives, business, and I'll turn it over to the Honorable Dr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant. Well, we will have our construction program committee meeting bright and early Monday morning, and so I'll have a fresh new set of information sets to give to you Monday night.
All right.
I'm happy to do that.
And we got several projects that we'll be approving Monday night. Item 11.2, authorization for professional service agreement from Faithful and Gould for price validation for program number 6, task order number 16, roofing and canopy projects at Choctawhatchee High School and Lewis School. 11.3, authorization for professional services agreement from Faithful and Gould for price validation for program number 6, task order number 17, roof replacement at Bluewater Elementary School and Walker Elementary School. And 11.4, program number 6, task order number 18, time and materials task order repair soffit at Destin Elementary School.
And I just want to say, I feel like we have roofed the world. I just didn't know. There was so much roofing to be done, but I feel like we've done it. But
fingers crossed we don't have any storms.
Well, and it's safe to say, it is, we are fixing these roofs, so we
I
don't have
know,
to talk
I
about
know,
them for
but
hopefully another 20 years.
We've been talking roofs for a long time.
Yes. All right, so section 12, information technology seat management contract, and we will have one item, 12.1, CACI, task order number 2-200 for security camera repairs at Choctawhatchee High School. And we'll move to section 13, attorney's business, and Mr. McInnes, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
One item today, Mr. Chairman and board members, I need to ask you to schedule a special board meeting to conduct an attorney-client session to review a matter of pending litigation. This is in case number 2019 CA 0000909F, and we would ask, Mr. Chairman, that you schedule that on February the 24th at 8:30 a.m. That would be prior to the workshop on that day.
We're all good with that? All right. We'll do
That's
that.
all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you, Mr. McInnes. And Mr. Chambers, we have 14.1 out-of-state student trip request, and then I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant, School Board. I want to start off by saying a big congratulations to Brittany Tate, who, as you know, is going to be our Teacher of the Year for Okaloosa County. She is a homegrown student who used to be here within our school system and now is doing a great job as a teacher and a leader in our school district. So it's great to see when that happens, but some of you may also have additional words, so I'll stop there, but congratulations to Ms. Tate. I do want to do just a quick round of thank yous. There's a lot that is going on right now in the school system, from construction to curriculum to looking at things that we do in human resources, the finance program. We've talked about some of those pieces today. And when you look at audits, when you look at COPs, and then the cause and effect of that, there's a lot that's going on in the school district. So I do want to say, I think Joel Linder is still here. Just very much appreciate the work that you're doing with Jacobs Titan. It is very much appreciated because, like we talked about before at several board meetings ago, this is really historic what we're doing here in Okaloosa County in terms of not piecemealing, and we're actually fixing things. Ms. Vanchek just alluded to it. We're fixing roofs. We're not just patching roofs. So there's a lot that's going on right now, and I couldn't be more thankful for that. I want to just also say that it is Career and Technical Education Month, and I want to thank Ms. Branscombe for her leadership, and I also want to thank our CTE teachers all across our school district at OTC, but also at the elementary level as well. As you know, we've had a concerted effort to make CTE that's something that is very prominent in Okaloosa County. And we've always done a very good job at the middle school level and the high school level, but now we've morphed down into the elementary level as well. We have over 21 CTE programs in Okaloosa County. And one of the things that we've tried to be very mindful of is making certain that we're talking to local industry and also formulating those partnerships where students can leave a program, whether it's at Crestview High School, whether it's at OTC, whether it's at Niceville, Fort Walton, Choctaw, any of our programs, and they can go into business here in the local industry and make a good wage. So that's something that we've prided ourselves on. Last year, in a COVID year, we earned about 1,644 industry certifications, which equated to about $800,000 that comes back to Okaloosa, but not to the district, not to the principal's discretionary budget, but to those CTE programs. And that money goes straight back there. Normally, we generate about $1 million plus each year. So to still get $800,000 in a COVID year for those programs specifically, just very proud of that. At the middle school level, over 589 digital tools. So those are a lot of our IT type courses. So our students at the middle school level are getting that foundation where they can then go into programs such as cybersecurity and others at the high school level and continue to grow. So that is an important piece to what we're doing. We've talked about that many times, but I cannot stress enough the importance of starting at the elementary level and moving forward. As you know, we were blessed to get a Triumph grant that is going to help us get into artificial intelligence and data science and machine learning. That's a mouthful right there. But we're in that process right now. Mr. Horton, Ms. Branscombe really working through that. We have partnered with the University of Florida developing curriculum as we speak. So that's going to be a flagship program for us also going forward. And again, that's an example of meeting the needs of where we are in today. So excited about where we're going in career and technical education. February is a busy month. As you know, this is Black History Month, and I'm proud that our schools are doing a number of activities, and just some of them. You know, there's essays that are being written, there's art contests, we're decorating doors. They got really creative this year, and what the theme this year is health and wellness. So many schools are going to be submitting recipes about being healthy, and all that's going to be accumulated into an overall district book for foods, and it's going to be published out. So I'm very excited about that as well. And then we're also highlighting local folks in business, local folks, whether it be doctors, lawyers, people who are doing amazing things and giving back to the community. So we'll be highlighting those folks also throughout the month. So we're very excited about that.
Can that cookbook be put on the web, on our district website?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
In case I missed the publication, I'd like to get through it.
And I'm glad you said cookbook, because I was trying to come up with the words and couldn't think of cookbook. So I appreciate that.
And Ms.
Okay.
Gardner can just cook us up some stuff and bring it.
I know, Al will.
Either way.
Send it to his email.
Also, so move into ESSER 3. So you know we've talked a lot about ESSER 3 and these funds. So I want to kind of give you an update on where we are right now. First of all, the state of Florida is looking right now at delivering these ESSER 3 funds in two parts. One is going to be learning loss, and then the other fund is going to come from the accumulation of many different categories where they're going to send that money to the schools. So that has not happened at this point yet, but I think we're getting close. So I just want to remind us of some of these categories. So learning loss is something that we put a lot of time and thought and effort into. So some of those highlights are continued funding with our guidance counselors slash TSAs at the high school level. Also looking at tutoring for students, additional reading and math coaches, math and science textbook adoption. Now I want to pause there. As many of you know, when we do a textbook adoption, there's not enough money to do a full-scale textbook adoption. And so you do that over a series of years. So this is going to give us the ability, once approved, to be able to do it all at once and give our teachers and our students some necessary resources in order to meet the needs of our students. So very excited about that.
Mr. Chambers, real quick, statutorily, that is one of our duties as school board, is to approve curriculum. So the adopting curriculum, how does that get to us? Where does it start at?
So the adoption process is truly a process. So first and foremost, the state of Florida approves what are the different textbooks that school districts can choose from.
It's not just one.
So it's not just one. And once the state of Florida puts out what the designated choices are, then there's a process. And that process then comes to the school district. And school districts will work with teachers, we'll work with schools, and narrowing down what they believe is going to be the best textbook to choose. But there's a committee, so to speak, where each of the schools are represented. Also, the public has an opportunity to give input into the textbook adoption process. Once all of that is done and a decision is made, then that choice, whatever that textbook may be, then comes before the school board for your consideration. At that point, there's also a vetting period or a waiting period where public can give more input, and then finally it'll come back to you for that final approval after all of those processes have occurred.
And I say that because the public does have input in that. In those texts, once we decide which one we're going to go with, they are for view. It's for the public to view.
Absolutely.
There is an opportunity for them to view it.
Absolutely.
Just like we have to do our part. So.
And Ms. Flanagan's done a great job leading that endeavor over the years, whether it's ELA, Math, Social Studies, or Science, or some of our electives. And it's a process, and she does a great job coordinating that.
I have a question about textbooks. It seems to me that the role of the textbook has changed in the last few years because teachers have such a plethora of ways of getting information, and often those textbooks come with auxiliary pieces and everything. So, and the fact that I'm hearing that schools are taking out lockers, which, store that. So are we still trying to put, for example, in an English class, are we trying to put a textbook issued out to every student? Or are we going more to a situation where having access, where it could be used in the school, which I think is fine. The more you can get the information, the better, rather than it has to be in this book.
Absolutely.
I see it going this way.
Welcome, Miss Lightboard.
Hi.
So
I thought I wasn't going to get up here today.
We like to keep you on your toes
Thanks.
over there.
So all of the textbooks currently now are also electronic, so they're also online, which does give the availability through our devices. So for many of them, a student might open their Chromebook or their iPad and use the textbook through there. A lot of the textbooks through the electronic pieces are more interactive and have those interactive components versus the book. Currently, all of the adoptions kind of have they're intertwined, so we will get hard copies of books as well as the electronic pieces of the book. The thing that everybody needs to know is that the new textbooks, and this has been for several years now, they are not, most of them, except for maybe AP ones, most of them are consumable. So when a student gets a textbook, That textbook is maybe about that big, but all of the pages in it are consumable. So it's not a textbook that we then pass down to next year's student.
Even
So-
on the secondary level?
Yeah, for most, not all,
Oh,
but
okay.
for most, yes. That's how the textbook companies have come. Now, when we purchase, if we purchase, let's say, 300 English books, then what happens is each year we get the student edition of 300 more. So then those go. So that's part of the purchase process. Does that make sense? So it's not like I get one and we use that for 5 years. I get a new one every year for the 300 that I purchased.
So when it comes to the board, we're watching bottom line, the financing of buying these books. Is that helping us in the cost in the sense that, or are we actually purchasing more? Because if it's consumable, we have to replace every year, where,
So
hey,
we don't
all know we've had that 30-year-old textbook. we've
Right,
seen.
right.
Oh, that's my mom's name.
What
Yeah.
it does is it makes, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think my son said that with me. But what it does is it's a 5-year, every textbook is a 5-year adoption. So we're
Okay.
not paying additionally each year, we pay for that overall adoption. Now, have textbook costs go up? Have they gone up? Absolutely. Just like everything else you've heard today,
There you go.
insurance
Dr. White's
and,
gone up
and
too.
everything else.
Well,
So-
except one thing hasn't gone up, and that's the allocation the schools are given to
Exactly.
buy
Which,
textbooks.
which is why Mr. Chambers was saying we are supplementing that with ESSER
Yeah,
funds
well,
in order
good.
to complete the
Thank you.
adoption. So
Because
our-
there were
yeah.
times when I had to take money out of the school operational budget to
Yes,
make
sir.
an adoption in a subject area for a grade level, because the allocation from the state wouldn't even come close to
See, that's
paying
just-
what the bill was for all of those books.
Yet we're required,
Oh, yeah.
and that's what I was getting at, is
Yeah.
that, is there any way we can still get the job done, but cut that? And that's why I was wondering, we don't need stacks and stacks of books, hard copy books that are not being issued or not being used. And I'm just wondering where we are, not as a criticism, but that we can save our money.
Right.
And,
So
They
the
haven't lowered
textbook
the
companies,
prices, though.
no, and the textbook
Right.
companies have kind of taken
Right.
that away by making those consumable books. So they're gone at the end of the year, and you get a new set of consumable books.
okay, well, thank you.
And just as an example, so we receive approximately $2 million for textbooks. A textbook adoption can be as much as $4 million.
So twice.
Just keeping that in mind.
So, but one day, we're not going to have ESSER funds. I mean,
We didn't before.
theoretically, it's going away, right? And so, again, that puts us in a position of making those bad choices, like he was saying.
So the interesting thing with textbooks is the last 2 major textbook adoptions, going back 6-7 years ago, the adoptions are back-to-back each year. So ELA, Math, Social Studies, Science. And then that's happened again. When you put them back-to-back, it puts school districts in a very precarious position, because I remember very clearly where we would do an ELA adoption over a 2-year period. Then there were some gap books that you had to purchase at the same time.
Right.
So then the cycle is very difficult to fund.
To do.
But you got to be creative in the way that you do it.
And of course, if we change from the testing to the progress monitoring, now the standards, I'm assuming, will stay pretty much the same, right? Who knows? But anyway, let's say they are, those materials will still be relevant. But if they are changed, if the legislature goes in, or the Education Department of Education changes any of those standards that we have to teach, it's supposed to be correlated with the materials that you have.
Correct. So that has occurred. So ELA changed this year, and the books correlated to that. And then math changes next year. And so we are in the math adoption for this year. So when the new books go into play next year, there will be new standards that correlate to those books as well. So our curriculum team is going through those standards with our teachers now, so they're prepared. because there are changes in where something may be taught, maybe difference in the years that they're taught. And so then they'll go through the text once we decide what that's going to be and make sure that our teachers, are in line with that as well.
And these are called the best standards, right?
The new standards are the best standards. The test is called the FAST test. So
Well, good to
instead
know that
of
they're the
FSA,
best.
it's FAST. So
Because good to
yes.
know they're the best standards, because if they're the best, we're good. We can
Right,
stop, right?
exactly.
So, but it seems like,
Don't
yeah,
have acronyms.
anytime they make that change, it costs districts because we have to keep up with the materials to,
Yeah.
like you said, I mean, nouns and verbs don't change, but where you're looking at different pieces of things, that does change, and what years and all
Yes.
that, so.
Well, and you could use the example if something normally is taught in ninth grade, but there's prerequisites that are taught in middle school, and those are not part of the middle school standards, now ninth grade's gonna have to pick up those pieces in order to move on with the standard that they have to teach. So those are
That's
some
what
of
he's
the
talking about, the
things that
gap.
we're seeing,
You
right?
have to get them.
Yep.
Wow.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. That brought us some healthy discussions.
There we go. There we go.
Are you done? No, no, just teasing.
Now, Ms. Gardner. So staying within the category of ESSER 3, so we talked about learning loss. That's one of the categories that we're hoping to see those funds transmit to school districts soon. As a reminder, we put our ESSER 3 grant in on the very first day that it was able to do so. So my understanding is that we're in the first batch to be approved. Still waiting on that approval notification. Other categories include academic support, health and safety, employee relief and retention, revenue shortfall. So there's a number of different categories. I just want to share with you on the employee relief and retention, just reminding us what we put in there for ESSER 3. So we put in there for there to be a bonus for every employee that was with us last year that did not receive one the previous year. So we know that the statutory definition of a classroom teacher, they received it. We know that school principals received it, and rightfully so. But we also know rightfully so that there's our entire school district it took to get through last year and this year. So we want to go back and do a bonus there. Also within our plan is a retention bonus, retaining those individuals who have been with us during a very difficult year. And so we have a bonus for the first semester and a bonus for the second semester. I know that I receive emails about that. I'm sure
So do
you
we.
might,
Not
you
emails,
might
but-
as well. Amy Dale has done an excellent job managing all of these grants, and there's a lot of work that comes with these grants. And bless Amy Dale's heart, because I basically reach out to her every day and say, where are we? And we are reaching out to the state of Florida, the Department of Education. I reached out to Jacob Oliva as early as this morning, again, and just asking some clarifying questions, and he was very helpful in looking to get some information back to me. So we are eager to receive these funds for multiple reasons. First and foremost, for our students, and secondly, for all the things that we have in that grant, because it's going to make a difference for students, employees, facilities, and such, but also these bonuses as well. So that's just a quick update on ESSER 3.
So what are they telling you as far as timeline?
So about 4 weeks ago, it was about 2 weeks.
Checks in the mail.
Pretty much by March 11th, isn't it? When the session
Yeah.
ends.
I'm hopeful that some of the money is going to start flowing here soon. I'm hopeful.
That's great.
Shifting kind of on this topic, as you know, the legislative session is still in full go. We have, just for the board's knowledge and for the public's knowledge, we have reviewed the governor's budget. We are in the process of reviewing the Senate's budget, the House's budget. So Julie and her crew really looking at that and what is the true impact to our school district. So we will have more information to you. We are watching the bills that are going through. Ms. Lightbourne and her crew and others have printed them. We're looking at them. Of course, nothing has come to be yet, but we're making sure that we're on top of what could be coming for this next school year. We have been in touch with our local legislators as well. I'll say I'm very proud to be able to have multiple conversations with Senator Broxton, Representative Maney, and I know many of you are as well as we advocate for Okaloosa County. I want to shift to ask Mr. Horton to come up really quickly and just give just a little bit of information again about controlled open enrollment since we're in that window.
Thanks, Mr. Chambers. Just as a reminder, board members, we opened up our application window January 15 of this year, and it runs initially through February 15, so that'll be closing out shortly. The application process about the same pace as last year for students, parents who are interested in having their students attend a school other than the one to which they're zoned. And so if there are seats available, they're given those seats. Transportation is provided by the parent. And in places where there may be more requests than there are seats available, we've mentioned before we have a random lottery process that does give statutory preference to certain groups of individuals, including children of active duty military. So that process is ongoing. It'll be after the 15th where we'll review all of those requests and process those and get those out by email to parents and also to the schools themselves. And then they'll connect and help those enrollments occur.
So I do have a quick question. So I know in the north end, with the exception of probably Laurel Hill, there probably isn't any open schools, but how many open schools are we looking at right now?
You caught me. So probably across the county, 18 or so, 18 to 20 schools, and they're on our webpage, and that's where parents go to complete that application. I do believe, obviously, so in the north end, there might be one elementary school that has a smaller number of seats available, and that was based on some lower than expected enrollment last year. So, but you're right, in the north end, there may be just that one that's got some seats available.
All right. Questions? All right. Thank you, Ms. Norton. We appreciate you.
All right. So we also know that we're in the time frame where kindergarten registration is occurring, and that's it's an exciting time for families. That the baby's getting ready to start in the school system. So that registration process this year is going to be conducted on the Focus platform. So that's going to be a change, and of course we get that information out to families. We are looking at producing videos for parents so they know specifically how to enroll. So we're about to embark in that process. It's going to be new, but we're going to make sure that we get information out to families so they'll be comfortable as they go through that Focus platform to be able to register their children. And then lastly,
I have a question on that. Individuals who may not be able to do it on that platform, will they be able to maybe go into this school and a school personnel, will be able to help them? Maybe will it also be, different language or?
Yes, ma'am. So we're providing, so the application process will be in both, in two languages. It'll be in Spanish as well. We're providing some iPads at each school site for parents who may not have internet access, so they can get support in enrolling and registering their student. Now this, again, is for new students to the county, so new kindergarten. So if your child's already in kindergarten, first or second grade, then there's nothing for the parent to do. Right. That child just rolls on to the next grade. But yes, ma'am. And then just to add, we'll be training our registrars next week. So they're the gatekeeper. They're that front person that has all the information about how to help and what to do. So they'll be trained next week on this platform before it rolls out to parents, and they'll be available at each school to help and support. We also, you did see a board item earlier where we're going to be adding a computer technician as a help desk support. So we'll be providing help desk support for parents and employees both as we move into the process. And Mr. Chambers was right. We're actually filming today a couple of videos, one with our media specialist, Hillary, but they're doing parent and employee videos about how this is going to work. And it really, there'll be a lot of hand-holding. The application process right now has been primarily paper-based. That packet is 10 to 12 to 13. It seems to grow. So we've worked with Focus to transition that to a simple web-based click, add process. And even when a parent puts in their address, there's search parameters in our database that will help to pull that address up, and so the parent can then click and select on it. So it's going to be something where change is always, causes a little bit of nervousness, but we'll work with folks to get them through this, and it will be okay.
That's good to hear, because I know we have a lot of school that are high ELL population, and that's will be helpful.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
if they're in the VPK?
And our help desk is bilingual too. So
Oh,
parents
good.
call in, just like when we had COVID and we were in My School Online, we'll be able to have bilingual support through our help desk.
If they're in the VPK, they go ahead and register over, or do they have to start over?
Good question, Ms. Ivanchik. So if they're currently in VPK at a location, so VPK could be within the school district or without, so it's a
Right.
separate enrollment. They'll need to register as a new student for kindergarten where they're going to attend.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Horton.
I got a couple more things.
Okay.
All right. So we know that we talked a little bit about the new progress monitoring assessment, and we've talked about also in Okaloosa County, we've also progress monitored for many years. And we utilize an assessment right now, that's Iready. And Iready is not only a test, but it's also it's a curriculum that helps meet the needs of students to be able to deliver instruction to meet their needs. And I am proud to say, when you look at all the challenges that have occurred over the course of the last 2 years, because the learning loss is real, right? That learning loss is real. And then when you look at absenteeism on the student side and the teacher side, you know, whether it's due to sickness, whether it's due to quarantining, whether it's continuity of instruction because the pacing's been interrupted, whether it's mental health, learning new standards, one piece that I'm proud of is our teachers, our principals and staff and paraprofessionals. They've worked hard through all of this. And when you look at the test that they took in September to the test that they took in January, on the reading side, approximately 20% more of our students are now on grade level after instruction throughout the first semester. And on the math side, approximately 25% more of our students are on grade level. And to me, with some of the disruptions that have occurred, it shows that teachers and schools and our support professionals are staying focused on the task at hand, which is our most important, second most important behind safety, is instructing our students. And I also want to say thank you to, there's many different groups, but even bus drivers, with the difficulty that they've had this year, but still getting those students to school, it impacts these numbers right here. So I just appreciate that. And I want to end in saying that we started with the Teacher of the Year, Brittany Tate, and then our Ed Support Employee of the Year, which I know some of you may have some more comments on as well, Martha Sword from Southside Primary School, and just, again, couldn't be prouder. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chambers. So now,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
before you move on to the
No,
next
no
step of
problem.
business, I'd like, if it's possible, you know, Monday night will be a big night, you know, February 14th and all that. And maybe we could cover one of the items rather than me asked to move it to discussion today.
Okay.
And that would be 8.21, if that would meet your pleasure.
Yes, sir. I'm good with that.
That way we can maybe shorten that Monday
sir.
night meeting. So 8.21, the ELL plan. Ms. Tucker, you've been waiting there patiently, so I'm wondering if you might come up and talk with us a little bit about what this is. This is a big one because we only do it once every, is it 3 years?
Yes, sir, that's correct. Thank you for the opportunity to share. We are a very fortunate district to serve at this moment, just 5 minutes ago, double-checked, 1,523 English learners, representing over 60 different languages. 60.
Wow.
So while Spanish is that #1 other spoken language, we do have a beautiful cultural and linguistic diversity in our district. This plan, as you see, is on the DOE template, where on page 3 you have all the summaries of legal expectations and guidelines. We are definitely following these as stated in our plan to provide equal and appropriate educational programming for all students. Highlighted on page 3 are the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Civil Rights Memorandum of 1970, Consent Decree 1990 and 2003. Those are key items that help govern all of our decision making, from personnel training to student services.
Okay.
Yes.
So just a couple of things now. I think you did just speak to the law that covers this particular program. And so I just had some general type questions about how the program works. How do we accommodate these students that don't speak English? Because most of us do. And we might not speak their native language that you mentioned. I think you said 60 different languages.
Exactly.
How do we do that, and how does the plan specify that we do that?
Yes, sir. It's a remarkable and very rewarding privilege. It also sounds impossible, doesn't it? 6 years ago, I can't believe I'm still standing here today, because I remember 6 years ago thinking, Mr. Chambers, I'm not sure I'm the girl for this. But it is amazing in collaborating not just with the other districts in the state, and I'm in close contact with the Student Achievement through Language Acquisition Bureau at the DOE. We also collaborate nationally and globally to find strategies, to find supplemental programs that work. These numerous laws that I mentioned recognize the impossibility of districts like ours to hire a Portuguese teacher for Destin Elementary School when we cannot even find English-speaking teachers right now during a shortage. So with that type of diversity, we are provided lots of opportunities to explore strategies for, as you see in our plan, the mainstream inclusion model, which is a state-approved model for this. The immersion program does work. I have witnessed in both the other states where I've served as well as now in Florida, it is absolutely phenomenal. The immersion and the opportunities students have when provided peer academic discourse with their English-speaking peers, they are learning at a much higher rate than in dual language programs where they're being taught in their home language and English. So it's exciting. I could talk for days about the types of strategies, but I know time is of the essence here. But anytime you'd like to see some grade level online subscriptions that we use to support, we do have some schools, secondary schools, that use state-approved course codes for developmental language arts, ESOL through ELA. These are sheltered instruction courses. They're not immersion courses. English learners only attend those. But those are site-based decisions, and we do provide those adequate supports. Also, this is a great opportunity to say, among those stakeholders, Mr. Chambers constantly reminds us that we celebrate, couldn't do our jobs without. We have ESOL interpreters in many of our schools. These are allocated as stated in the consent decree and part of the Florida Administrative Code. We allocate one for every 15 same language group of our English learners. There are schools that don't qualify for that, right? So that's why our iPad technology, our Google Translate with camera features, so the Portuguese student can hold that camera right over the textbook and it immediately translates. These tools are phenomenal to support the multilingual needs that we have. Our district goes above and beyond. I really appreciate the fabulous Julie Perry, because she translates budget language for me. She has made that comprehensible for me. So although the state requires that interpreter for every 15, we go above and beyond that in the district and allocate additional interpreters as the school approaches 50 and then higher. I work with Ms. Lightbourne and her great leadership team to make those allocations. Okay.
And so when these students may come to the school district and they might be new, I think I remember that there's some assessments that we do to try to gauge their English language proficiency, and then also even maybe what grade level they might be on.
That's right. In our Equal Access to Educational program, at the time of enrollment, we are federally required to provide a home language survey. So if a family marks yes to one of the 3 required questions, and those are stated for you in the ELL plan, or the district plan before you, those questions provide us the consent to do the required ESOL eligibility training or testing. As that student tests eligible for ESOL, then the student L plan is created, which can be revised anytime. And I've seen these revised multiple times in the year at the elementary school because they're gaining English acquisition so quickly. But yes, there is that required test, and annually the state requires the WIDA Access for ELS test. That's going on now. It starts in January and ends right around spring break.
And then I guess lastly, I think there's some requirements for our teachers to have some kind of certification. So I'm wondering if you might speak to that for a moment.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. Many times new teachers think this is all my idea. I have greater ideas, but I'm definitely a champion. I understand the intent of the state rules and the consent decree to provide training, but certain categories of teachers, depending on the grade levels and subjects they teach, are required by the state to obtain ESOL endorsement within a period of time. It's all based on their time of hiring. Every category is different, so a math and science teacher has different qualifications. But we try to go above and beyond that, Dr. White, to recognize, just as all of us, when we were in education courses in college, when you have that human being in front of you and the door of the classroom is closed and there you are, you tend to forget, or things change, right? All of that training. We try to provide continual refresher trainings that really meet the needs of the individual classrooms. Our Canvas platform that we've implemented, the learning management system, is helping tremendously to build that capacity, because we do have lots of new teachers and transfers to different subject areas.
Very good. Very good. Well, those are all the questions I have, Chairman.
Well, I just want to mention, speaking of our Teacher of the Year, Brittany Tate, when I was on that committee and I observed her. She has a large population of ELL students.
Yes.
But what she did, she worked magic, which is one of the reasons she has that title.
Yeah.
So our teachers are given a lot of strategies and a lot of things, I'm sure thanks to you and others too, but they work very well with those students, and they let the students help each other, and that's another thing too. So it's happening out there, good things.
Right. And I appreciate that point, Ms. Evanchek, because I can imagine if you might be substituting, or if you're being called into a classroom and you might not possess all the kinds of things that you've spoken about, it might be very difficult to assume those duties and responsibilities. But I just appreciate so much you putting all this together and bringing it forward. And I guess we're good for 3 years if we approve this, right? Is that how it works?
Well, it will go to the state next, and they have assured me the draft looks good to them. So, yes, sir. Thank you so much.
One more layer. Thank you, Ms.
Yes.
Tucker.
All right.
It's
Thank
a
you,
privilege to serve. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience too there. All right. So we are now down to school board members' announcements, and I will start with Ms. Garner today.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant. Mr. Chambers, thank you for mentioning Martha Swords. She was our Ed Support Person of the Year. If you get a chance, talk to her. Listening to her story and what Okaloosa County did for her and her daughter, and what she's doing now to give back. There was probably 7 of us on the committee, and every single one of us, and I wish Mr. Strong was still here, we were wiping away tears. It was absolutely amazing, and how she is giving back, but also what Okaloosa County did for her daughter and the success of her daughter this time. So thank you for mentioning her, and I do encourage, go talk to her. She's pretty amazing. I just wanted to do a shout out to Fort Walton Beach High School. Fort Walton Beach High School, they're on the roll. They're hot right now. I went last night and watched the boys soccer. They were hosting the regional, and even though it didn't turn out quite the way we wanted, they lost by 1. Just to sit there, it quickly brought back the memories of the days that I sat there watching my son play at Fort Walton Beach High School, and how cold those bleachers are and how cold that game is. But to see the parents and the community out there and supporting, it just brings back so much excitement. So, even though it didn't turn out the way we wanted, they played one heck of a game. The Lady Vikings are playing tonight. They're seated number 1. They're hosting regionals. They won district, and I'm not a big basketball fan, but if you want to watch some girls play basketball, that's amazing. I mean, that's really worth watching. The swimmers are at regional, the girls wrestling competition, first in the Florida High School Association district, so proud of them. And our cheerleaders, and I think several of our schools, our cheerleaders are at nationals right now. Vikings are, I know. They're performing today and tomorrow. We wish them luck and in their competition, and also safe travels back home. And just to quickly encourage our public, I'm sitting there last night, and I don't have a child playing anymore, thank goodness, soccer during the middle of the winter, but when you sit there and you watch the pride of these students, the excitement, the sportsmanship, it just makes you really proud to see our students, to see these young adults and what's in our community. And there's not much on TV right now, so if you want some great excitement, look at one of your local schools and look at the schedules. There's a lot of exciting games going on right now. So that's all.
Well,
Thank you.
I'll just concur with you on being a soccer parent, that anytime we went to Riggs Stadium, it happened to be the coldest, windiest, rainiest day, night. And
We had so much gear. We had little propane heaters and hot seats, and I mean, and of course I forgot all that and didn't take all that. And I'm glad it was exciting because that kept me warm, but it took me a long time to warm up after. But it was well worth the chill.
Yes. All right. Ms. Vanchek?
Yes, okay, so we had a foundation meeting this week, and I want to personally invite all of you to come out to our college and career fair on February 26th. It's over at Beachside Church, but the foundation is doing a fantastic job. And speaking of Brittany Tate, her mom, Debbie Tate, is one of the driving forces behind this particular thing, along with the foundation members. I sure wish I had had this when I was in school. What we're doing and giving to these students, and I want anybody listening to this to any high school student in Okaloosa County can attend free. We're offering transportation from all areas of the district, and so many different things. And our partners come out, all our business partners. And speaking of CTE, those businesses will be there, but it's coming up. So board members, if you can fit it into your schedule, please drop by. It will renew your enthusiasm for public education and what we're doing, and you'll see a lot of good things, and you might even say, I maybe should have gone into a different field. But please come, we'd love to have you. So also, we saw a wonderful concert by our middle and high school honor bands out at Maddie Kelly. Wow, I mean, it's just the level just continues to keep going up, and want to congratulate all those band directors and what they do with those students. So thank you.
Yeah, it was a great performance. We actually had bats in the belfry, too. So,
Yep, we did, had a bat.
And Dr. White, I'll turn it over
Thank
to
you,
you, sir.
Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of quick things. First of all, again, congratulations to our support person of the year and to our teacher of the year. And also to point out, and I know you all will join me in this, that it's National School Counselors Week. And we'd like to thank all of our valued and valuable school counselors who helped so many, including the principal when I was there. I'd like to congratulate the Choctawhatchee boys basketball team. They beat Godby last night, and they'll now advance to the regionals on Friday. And congratulations to Pryor Middle School soccer team. They came in second place in the county championship game. And congratulations to Meg's boys soccer team, who are the 2022 district champions of soccer. So thank you, Mr. Bryant. All right.
And there's a proud mama sitting out there, Miss Lightborn, with her son Mikey.
That's right.
He's doing amazing things over
Yep,
there,
coaching.
connecting to those students.
It's a big night for that end of Fort Walton. I've never seen, and you all know, I am a soccer mom and wife and whatever. And I have never seen that many people at a middle school soccer game. So what those two coaches and those two teams brought to Fort Walton last night was pretty amazing. And I was able to give those awards out, and I was very proud of both of those young men. J.R. Rynearson is the coach at Meg's, and both of them have really worked hard to get those teams to where they are. And the community support was outstanding.
You know, and I think that spills over. Not only are they coming and participating in the sports, but I think that invites them more into the schools themselves, whether it's the curriculum part or whatever, they feel more welcome. So it was nice to see Fort Walton last night at large.
So Dr. White, last night, either way it went, you were going to win as far as a board member.
It's a good way of looking at it.
I don't want to see what color you would wear, but
Well, we
either
used to
way-
have a
either
local
way.
preacher, and he would come to the Choctawhatchee and Fort Walton Beach games.
Tallman.
Yeah, and he would wear, half of his suit was green and the other half was red. And that was Reverend Smith.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's
Talman
right.
Smith.
Okay.
So I'll just finish up with saying, again, congratulations to the Teacher of the Year and Support Person of the Year. Also, the other night, Mr. Chambers and myself had the opportunity to go to the Science Fair Awards program, and I'll just tell you, I was just floored by some of the projects that these students were putting out. And this was a joint between Walton County and Okaloosa County, so there were students from both counties that were honored. I think the biggest one was how many of these kids got a 2-year scholarship to Northwest Florida State College just for their science program. So I know Tammy Ellis was very instrumental in that. There's a lot of other people. I see Miss Hards out there. Miss Lamb was there. It was just a great event. And going back to the career fair, Beachside Community Church is also opening up their doors. I just want to say a special thank you to Beachside Community Church. Not only have they done this, they've done a lot of things for the school district, allowing us to use their facility, and it's a great facility. It's centrally located for a lot of the events that we do, but I know Sean Ellis is the pastor there, so thank you to him and his congregation for opening up their doors to our school districts. So. And with that, I know there's a lot of things going on with sports up in Crestview. I know the boys won last night. I believe they beat Niceville, I think it was. But I believe they had to go all the way over to Tallahassee to do, I think was that game in Tallahassee?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was strange how that all worked out. It was in Tallahassee. Go figure, But, I know they made it, and there's some other sporting events that are still going on, and I'll have more updates of those on Monday night. So a lot of great things going on in our school district, not just athletically, academically, music. I mean, we had it all today. So, all right. So we're down to item 16, public comment, and again, this is the 2-minute version. So, Dr. White, people have 6 minutes if they want to come and speak to us.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yep.
So,
anybody here today?
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody here. And we will have one public hearing, and that will be at 6:15, and this will be the public hearing for adoption of new job description for career and technical education technician. And with that, I know y'all, with the exception of Miss Perry, she didn't have to come up. I won't put you on the spot there. So this meeting is adjourned.
Oh.